Hello, welcome to Forest Focus as Nottingham Forest prepared to host Everton in a game that feels pretty massive after the defeat to Aston Villa. So joining me to hopefully tell us Everton are going to roll over meekly and give us the points is Ped from Toffee TV. Ped, good to have you back on. How are you doing today?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. No real dramas for the end of our season, so everyone's a bit chilled out.
Yeah, I remember last time you were on, we were talking points deductions. I think bankruptcy might have been mentioned, all sorts of stuff. What's the season been like for you then? Over, you've got new owners and everything. Is it an exciting time or not?
Yeah, feels like it's very exciting at the moment. As we sort of finish off the season, as we obviously prepare to leave Goodison Park to move into our new stadium, and there's so much going on behind the scenes. Obviously, that started with the owners coming in December, and then sacking of Sean Dyche, and there's a lot of movements at the football club behind the scenes that some of it we've seen already, and some of it we've not, as there will be major changes in the summer. New CEO, and I imagine various different positions are going to be filled. And yeah, it just feels a little bit quiet at the moment, but it feels like we're preparing for something quite big. You know, obviously whether that transmits over to actually winning games of football, we'll have to wait and see. But it does feel like a really, really big moment for the football club.
What about your emotions about leaving Goodison? I remember you came on a while ago. We were doing something about moving grounds, which we're not doing now, but you came on and discussed the move to the new ground. You were pretty sort of matter of fact, it needs to happen kind of thing. Now the clock's ticking and those games are running out quickly. You still have that opinion, or are you kind of wishing it wasn't happening?
No, absolutely can't wait. I've been in the ground twice. It's unbelievable. Place to watch football. There's a lot of there's a lot of jokes and stuff around social media and stuff, or people leave comments on some of our videos about soulless bowls and all this kind of thing. I really don't understand what people think a football ground is when it's empty and it hasn't got anything in it. A football ground is made by the memories you make in it, isn't it? And of course, until Everton get into the ground and start making their own memories, then of course there will be no history attached to it. But it has to happen. Of course, leaving Goodison will be sad, and I'm a bit sadder now about leaving than I was maybe when I spoke to you last time, just because of the state of the football club. But it is becoming real, and it will be very emotional on that final day when we play Southampton. But it's something that just needs to happen. We can't, as I said last time, we can't renovate Goodison Park. There is no room. You know, we can't knock down houses on three sides of a ground. There was no other option really. And it's done now. The ground is built. And as I said, I've been in there a couple of times for test events, and on the outside, it is absolutely magnificent. On the inside, it still needs a little bit of work in terms of making it feel like an Everton ground. It's very, very much a lot of grey cement and a lot of dust and stuff knocking around the ground. But that's what they're doing at the moment. They're actually, they're preparing it for when we move in, by making it feel like it's an Everton ground. And until we go in it again, probably a pre-season game, we're not going to see any of that internal stuff. So really looking forward to seeing all that and it becoming our new home.
No, I think it looks really good, to be fair. The only thing I didn't like was it's a council-run fan zone or something that like a cattle market. I saw.
Nah, that's nothing to do with the ground. That's
no,
absolutely
I know.
That's
Just
a train
like,
station about
yeah,
10 minutes away. So yeah, that's nothing to do with that. Ours will be as I said, it's all part of the ground experience, and it's inside the wall. And when away fans get to come, they'll see all that. But yeah, there's a few issues with with travel to the ground at the moment. It's an old station, and it's not really fit for purpose, and the council haven't done anything about it. They're just expecting everything to be all right on the day, but there's a little bit of pressure being put on at the moment, and we'll wait and see how that turns out. But you'll know as well as we know, football fans are treated like second-class citizens, aren't we? Everywhere we go, we're not treated like people who are going to a major event that we've paid an absolute fortune for. We're still treated like second-class citizens. It's crazy in this day and age, the way all of us, every football fan, whether it be kickoff times, whether it be transport, whether it be whatever it is, everything is everything is geared towards television and not the actual people who go to football matches, and it's absolutely mad. Especially when the money we pay money a lot more than the people who go to other sporting events, and they're treated like, you know, like, I don't know, like the crown jewels or something. And football fans are just still treated like mud.
Yeah, massively, massively. I just couldn't believe it when I saw that, but like I say, that's more of a council thing anyway. Let's talk on the pitch then. Last time we spoke, you were very much, I think you were pretty much Dyche out. In fact, I'm sure you were. What have you made of the return of Moyes? It looks a lot better on the pitch. You're obviously seeing a lot more of them. You must be happy with what you're seeing overall.
Yeah, listen, Sean Dyche didn't care this season. He hadn't cared at all about anything that was really happening. He was just going through the motions, and a decision needed to be made, and it was made, you know, quite swiftly. The new owners were only in the club a week, and they made that decision, and thankfully, since then everything's gone pretty much to plan. You know, we won a lot of games early on, and there's been a lot of draws since. And listen, if you told me we were going to have this point tally in April and we'd be safe, then I'd have bit your hand off for it. So we're playing a little bit more attacking, but there's a little bit more emphasis on trying to score goals, which, believe me, under Sean Dyche, there was no emphasis on scoring goals. You know, you wouldn't think that was the thing that won you games of football or even drew games of football. There was no emphasis on scoring whatsoever, and it was just about keeping clean sheets. And we were losing games like 1-0 where we hadn't played that particularly badly, but we simply weren't trying to score goals. And, you know, you come to Goodison in December and rolled us over without any kind of issue whatsoever. I think our first shot was probably after you'd gone 2-0 up. And it was so easy for Forest on that day. And we just come off the back of 3 draws against City, Chelsea and Arsenal. That, you know, everyone felt like, oh, you know, you see the media on the outside talking about them. But those kind of games suited us because all we had to do was defend. And we did. And we got points out of them. But then a game like Forest, where people looked at it beforehand and gone, oh, that's a game we need to win, we were absolutely shocking. And then we went to Bournemouth and we didn't even try and score in that game, sorry. And that was it. That was the right, you know, he had to go, and he did. And David Moyes, as I said, has just put a little bit more emphasis on scoring goals. And we have, and it's been enough to get us the points that we've needed.
Dyche probably spends as much time in Nottingham as he does in Liverpool. So I'll ask this question. What's his legacy amongst Everton fans?
Well, you've got Everton fans you've got some Everton fans who'll go, forget about this season. You kept us up the first season, and last season was, you know, you take the points deduction out of it, we would have been so, you know, we would have had 48 points without a points deduction. We would have been safe ages before we were. And if you look at it like that, he did for me, I think he did the bare minimum. I'm not going to dress it up. I think he did the bare minimum with what he had. And it was enough to get us over the line 2 years in a row. So for some people, they just look at it, because that's the way it's been the last few years for Everton. It's just been like a manager coming in, doing a job in the short term, and then not having enough as a coach or a manager to grow, to take it any further. And I think that's the same with Sean Dyche. He came in, he did the bare minimum, he'd done the job, and then this season he didn't have enough because he hasn't got enough to take any team forward. You know, we'd go, I think, you know, you hear loads of times, loads of managers, when they talk about them, or loads of people out say things like, oh, if only we was given more money, or if only a club would take a chance on him and give him the resources. It's like, why? These managers aren't good enough. You know, it doesn't matter who they are, your Pulises, your Allardyces, your Dyches of the world. They're not good enough to take clubs. They'll save clubs and get them on a good footing, but they're never good enough to take them any further than that. And I think his time just come this year. But for some Everton fans, they're just grateful that he got us through a couple of years where things were looking terrible. And to be fair, last season with the points deduction situation, he did do a good job to steady the ship and get that amount of points. So it's one of them where it's like, I'll never sort of think about him ever again. That's it. I'll never think about him ever again as an Everton manager. He did what he needed to do in a terrible period for Everton where we all want to forget about it. But I'll never think about him ever again as an Everton manager or any kind of legacy.
Last Everton big picture question before we talk specifically about this game. Do you look at Forest and sort of think, why not us then? We've got a big new stadium. If we get the right transfer investment and we've got a good manager, do you think you could do what Forest have done this season, or is Forest season a bit of a freak one, do you think?
No, I don't think it is a freak one, because you look what happened to Villa and you look what happened to Newcastle. It's pretty much the same. I know Newcastle had the well, you've got three clubs, old traditional clubs, who were sort of weren't going anywhere, and owners have made the right decisions, and who've got a lot of ambition, who believe that they can break that stranglehold that 4 or 6 teams had. Decent backing, support wise, and have gone on, haven't they? And okay, it's slightly, Newcastle have got lots and lots of money, and I think Villa have quietly got lots of money, and your owners like sort of quietly got lots of money, although he's not quiet himself.
Yeah.
While everyone else is trying to figure out how to get through like this PSR situation, which has stopped them, and I think it's been the perfect mix. And I think it'd be too simplistic to go, yes, we can do that. The ingredients have to be right, and I think the ingredients on the pitch have to be right. And I think that means pace. You've got loads of pace, and you've had a centre forward who may never have another year like he's had this year. Chris Wood, doesn't mean he won't, but he's never done it before. It's just all perfectly aligned, isn't it? But what that can mean for Forest is getting in the Champions League and then kicking on from there, because you don't have to really worry about PSR and all those things. So we can be one. Yeah, anyone can, not anyone, because I'd be underplaying what you've done this season. But if you get that situation right and everyone's aligned, then it's a brilliant opportunity. Can we do it? Well, all the ingredients are there. In the past, we haven't been able to get out of our own way to do it. Or we thought like, and this is what happened on the Macheri, we started thinking like other clubs that are in the top 4. So got to go and buy everybody. And then the PSR rules hit, and then everything changed, and we never changed with it. So there's an opportunity. There's an opportunity for anyone, I think, if they get the house in order. Doesn't mean you can do it, because it's really, really difficult. And I think you've done brilliantly this season, and you give yourself a brilliant platform to stay up there for a while if you get this summer right, with obviously bringing players in and the Champions League for next season. So there's an opportunity, but I'm not going to sit here and say it's an easy one. But yeah, there's an opportunity, definitely.
Excellent. Right. We'll ask Ped about Everton on the pitch right now in just one moment. But just before we do that, just a reminder, this game isn't on TV. It's about one of the only ones that isn't for a while. But there is a post-match show straight after the game with thanks to I'm probably saying that wrong every time. Just a band from the 80s as it's billed there. Free entry out the Trent Navigation. You can get your dinner afterwards after you've been to the game. Or if you're unfortunate not to have a ticket, then you can hang around and enjoy the show straight afterwards. Everton of late then, Ped, like you said, I was looking at your results. I didn't realise you'd drawn so many games, a lot of them 1-1. Is it a case that, I've seen a few games, you're very hard to beat, but you just can't stick the ball in the net? Is that just the missing ingredient?
Yeah, we've been, that's been our issue all season. We can't score goals. We don't have enough talent on the pitch. We also don't have enough pace on the pitch. A very slow team. And that's something that's going to have to be rectified really quickly. But we are hard to break down. But I think the difference is that they may have been 1-0 defeats in the past that we may not have tried to even bother to try and score. And that's been the difference. It's that little bit of ambition to say, well, hang on, we are all right at the back. And we'll go and try and get that goal. And we've been behind, against Brentford, again away, against Arsenal, at home recently. We were 2-0 up against Manchester United. We were absolutely cruising. I think that day, what cost us was the lack of available players. And that's been the other thing of late. We really had to use the same 11 players for about 5 or 6 games in a row. And number one, it meant that after about an hour, we had absolutely nothing to come on the pitch. And I mean nothing. We had kids who we didn't use, and we had defensive players. They were our only senior players. We had the likes of Iliman Jai got injured in the Merseyside derby. Dwight McNeil's been out for a long time. Armando Broja, who's on loan from Chelsea, was out for a long time. One of our young strikers, Chimiti'd been out. Irabunim was being out. All these players, Dominic Calvert-Lewin's still out. All these players who just add something to the squad meant that we were playing the same players every single game. And the problem with that is the flip side of not having players that can come off and change is also that people like, some players just hit a wall, and Beto, who obviously had a brilliant little purple patch that helped us win games. I think teams started to figure him out, but also because he's a bit of a limited player, he may be in his own head a little bit now. So we had a great run. We played Brentford. He missed 3 one-on-ones, and you're never going to get 3 cleaner one-on-ones. I mean, just him and the goalkeeper, and he missed all 3. And I think he's a little bit in his own head now. So he's not scored for about 5 games now. And if he's not scoring, there aren't too many others. Njai's just come back. He came back in the Merseyside derby, a little 20-minute cameo, and then he played 75 minutes against Arsenal, obviously scoring the penalty. But there's just no other goal scorers in the team, really. We've had to rely on Jake O'Brien playing right back. He's a centre-back. He's grabbed a couple of goals. There just aren't goal scorers in the team. And that's really hindered us. And I think when Sean Dyche sort of looked at it as in, well, we can't score goals, so we have to defend. And that's it. Whereas I think David Moyes just looks at it and going, well, you're going to have to score goals. It doesn't matter if you lose 1-0 and you're really defensively, you have a good game defensively, it's still losing 1-0. So he's let us be a little bit more ambitious and play a little bit higher up the pitch and be a little bit more aggressive. So it has turned out to just be a lot of draws, but those draws have just eked us over the line, and we'd already won 4. I think we won 4 of his first 5. So that gave us that little bit of platform to be like, well, we can just get a few draws now. And listen, some of them we would have loved to have won and should have won. Others, we went to Wolves, didn't play particularly well, went 1-0 up, they pulled us back, and it was like, yeah, when we all have these games, it's like a draw's fine. Same on Saturday, Arsenal didn't want to lose the game and didn't want to get anyone injured. We were happy to take a point. In the end, you're just playing out a 1-1, and it's been like that just because the season is sort of petering out a little bit.
Let me ask you about a couple of individuals then that might well feature. You mentioned Beto, and you always said about him. What's the deal with is Doucouré a prominent player? It felt like he was playing higher when Moyes came in. Is he someone we should worry about, or is he just a bit of a cart horse who had a purple patch, for want of a better description?
It's not a cart horse, but I do understand what you mean by that. He's a player who can sort of he gives you so much energy and so much physicality. And I think it might sort of show you where the Premier League is right now. That physicality and being able to get around the pitch are, every club's got these players who because they don't get injured that often and are, steady and fit, get into the team. The irony is he's played most games for David Moyes, but he probably won't be at Everton next season because he's out of contract and there was an extension, but Everton have said they're not going to pay him because he's one of our highest paid players. He might actually be our highest paid player because he came in just at the right time where Everton were had loads of money or were throwing loads of money about. So he's on a decent wage. So Everton aren't prepared to pay that. Now, whether he's ready to climb down, I don't know. He'll probably have offers from Saudi, maybe, I don't know. But Everton aren't willing to pay that money. Whether they give him a contract, just a new, 1-year contract, I don't know. But he's diminishing returns. He used to pop up with a goal. Sure, I don't think we won a Premier League game when he wasn't in a Sean Dyche team. So he was really important to the way Sean Dyche played. And he has been important in this team because we've had such a lack of players available to us. But what might happen now is you might start seeing him less and less in the side as other players get an opportunity to prove themselves. We've got Carlos Alcaraz, who's on loan from Brazil. Now, he's got, obviously, an opportunity, a window now to maybe show the manager is he's worth it. Now, I think David Moyes has to look at that opportunity and go, is it worth buying this player? Only way we're going to find out is playing him. That's where maybe Doucouré will get less time. But Doucouré does pop up now and again and get a goal, set pieces, and he's got that physical ability, as I said, to get around the pitch. Can he can he play a pass 5 yards? Not enough for Everton fans. So he's a very, very frustrating player. But as I said, I don't think he'll be at Everton next season, but he'll play game. He'll probably start at the weekend, I imagine, because it's an away game as well. He's got that sort of presence, that know-how that you want when you're going to what will be a very, very tough game.
Yeah, he has scored against us before at the City Ground as well, so I'm a bit wary of him. The other player I wanted to ask about that we were a little bit worried about was McNeil, who does have some quality. Was he too soon for him to start, or is he maybe 30 minutes off the bench? How do you view it?
Yeah, he obviously scored the winning goal last season, didn't he? He's a weird one, McNeil. He's not a player I particularly like. Everyone who watches Toffee TV knows that. He's not a player I particularly like. He's so one-footed. It's scary how one-footed he is. His set pieces are absolutely brilliant. And it's probably his injury was probably the end of Dyche, because we scored so many goals from his set pieces. That honestly, just such. But if football had like an American football rule where you could just bring a player on, like special teams, he'd be playing for England. Honestly, his set pieces are so good, but his all-round game is just, he's got no pace and he's one-footed. So what do you do with him? Where he was finding a little bit of form was he was playing in the number 10 role. And what he'd do is he'd play in the number 10 and he'd sort of drift out wide to the right, not fully right, just drift out a little bit, which meant he was picking the ball up on his left foot. And that meant that he had like the perfect position to curl it, to have shots and curl it in. But you can't rely on that one thing, can you? You just can't rely on that one moment happening. He's a really hard-working football player. But I think for Everton to go forward, I really struggle to see where he's going to play, unless he was converted into almost like a deep line midfielder, like a quarterback role, almost what we've done with James Garner since, I know we've with you guys since we bought him. He plays very deep now, but maybe he could play that position and can find a pass. But for me, I really don't know where you're playing him. I just look at the modern game and I look at your team, for an example, and see all that pace out wide, and you look at it and think, if you get caught with the ball, you've got an option on either side. You can play it wide into space, and that pace is going to frighten anyone. We don't have that. We've Jack Harrison on one side, who's obviously on loan from Leeds, and on the other side, we've had Lindstrom, who's on loan as well. Or we've got Njai now, and Njai hasn't got loads of pace, but he's such a talented footballer that he scares the opposition. I just don't see that with Dwight McNeil. So I don't think he'll start this game, because he came back at the weekend, and he was on the pitch for 9 minutes, I think. And if you go on any of the stat websites, just look at his stat. Every single stat is 0. It blew my mind. Every single stat is 0. He was on the pitch for 10 minutes, and he literally didn't affect the game in any sort of way. It blew my mind. But there's a talent in there, but I just think, do you know what? If he played in like the 80s and 90s, it would have been a top player. But I think now you need pace, and he doesn't have any. So I struggle to see where he'll get in this team. But maybe I'll be surprised. Maybe he could be like a left back, maybe just because he's so left-footed that maybe he could play left back for Everton. I don't know, but he's not someone. He's not going to start left midfield. He's not going to start right midfield, and he ain't going to play in that number 10. I imagine he might. He might, if we change the shape. But I don't think it'll be this week anyway.
Maybe he's another Ashley Young who just regresses backwards on the pitch and ends up playing left back. I don't know.
I think Ashley Young's still faster than them, though.
Is he?
I think that's what's worrying.
Yeah.
That Ashley Young's still faster than him. That's a bit worrying, that, isn't it?
It is. Just before I ask Ped, before we go, his thoughts on Forest and this game in particular. Just a word of thanks for our second sponsors of this episode, new sponsors, Peak Media Marketing. As you can see, if you're looking to grow your business, if you're looking for support with online stuff, social media, growing your website, all that kind of business, they are the people for you. They are run by a husband and wife team locally. They're a legit business, obviously, and they do have a Forest connection. The person who set this sponsorship up for us works with them, and he's a big Forest fan. as well. So as ever, Forest Connection. So peakmediamarketing.co.uk/Forest, and the link is in the description if you want to check out a bit more what they do. Just before we let you go, Ped, haven't really got your thoughts actually on this game, how you're viewing it. We've got quite a lot of injuries. This will come out after Nuno's done his press, but there's every chance Olorena doesn't play, Chris Wood doesn't play, Tyrell Awoniyi might not play. We do have Alex Moreno back at least for sure. Are you feeling more optimistic than you might have done if all those lads were playing or not?
Not really, no. The reason I say that is because none of those players really scare me in terms of like Forest are just such a good unit that none of them the wide players, their pace scares me, but none of those players scare me. But that doesn't mean they're not really good, aren't having all really good seasons. I think that's the best thing I can say about Forest is that you've become a team that you can just plug players into it, and nothing much seems to change from the outside. I mean, you'd be able to tell me that differently if it does. It just doesn't. You just seem to have a way of playing. It reminds me of like obviously when Leicester won the league in many ways. Of they've just got that togetherness, and you're just going in such a good direction that nothing seems to worry you too much. I watched the second half of the Villa game. I thought you were so good. The way you just put so much pressure on them, and you dominated that second half, and you were really unlucky. I think you just ran out a little bit of steam as Villa started to counter attack, and had a little bit of a threat sort in the second half of the half. But for the first 25 minutes, you absolutely destroyed them in that second half. And of course, the damage was obviously done by them, but I think you really scared them. And I actually look at this game, and I've said this for a while. This was actually the game I was most worried about. I mean, I know we've had a Merseyside derby, and we've had Arsenal home, but those games sort of tend to sort themselves out on their own. I think where you guys are so close to achieving something so big, and everyone's behind it in such a way that it's like you're just forcing over the line. And I remember in 2004 when we qualified for the Champions League, for the qualifiers, I remember that was the feeling then. We started to run out of steam a little bit, but everyone was just forcing it to happen. So when players came into the team that hadn't been in the team, it was seamless because you knew what you were playing for. You knew what was at stake, and the fans will obviously be behind you, they have been, ever since you came up in the Premier League. Obviously, when you came up, that it just feels like there's so much momentum that it doesn't really matter who plays. Of course, if there's loads and loads of players out, then that would be an issue. But it just feels like that momentum. I remember when Leicester won the league, I was at Leicester the day they got the trophy, and I watched the game, and Leicester's team, when you look back on paper, it just didn't seem to be that good. But they battered us 3-1, and there was like nothing we could do on that day. Absolutely nothing to stop it, because you just had this, we are all so in sync. And I feel the same about Forest this season. I think you've got over your rough patches now, and even losing to Villa, I think they were still a thing of you've played really well, and you tried everything to win the game. It just wasn't your day. And I think your home games are going to obviously be key. And I'm quite fearful of this game, if I'm honest, because I just feel like Everton, where we are, it just feels like at home, there's a feeling that we've got to try and stay unbeaten now at home, because obviously we've only got 3 games left. But the away games, this is one where I look at it and go, oof, because the other thing about it is, since we come back from the international break, we play Liverpool, Villa, play you now. That's the top 3. Then we play City, so that they were 4th, and I think they're 6th now. And then we play Chelsea, and then we play Newcastle last game this season. Thank God we're safe, by the way.
Yeah.
Thank God we're safe. But basically, like, we're top 5 all in a row. So it's obviously going to be difficult. We're not gonna get results in every one of the games. But the home games, I'm a bit like, yeah, we'll be all right. But this one, I'm looking at it going, we are going to have to play really, really well to get a result in this game. And that's just Forest momentum. It really is. Because I just think you've got the prize. You can see the prize ahead of you, and it's there. And everyone's willing it to happen. It's just a juggernaut now, and I think you will get. I think you'll get 3rd without any issue, because you've got enough now, and everyone's together on it.
Yeah, I think I'm very confident. I mean, you won't have looked at the fixtures, but all the teams around us have got to play each other anyway. And I think we've still got our X Factor players fit. As long as Elanga's all right and Hudson-Odoi and Gibbs-White, I
Yeah,
think I'm all right. But I think we'll be all right. We are so well disciplined, as you say. There are nuances within the formations and all that kind of
yeah,
stuff,
of
but there's
course.
such a set formula that I think will be good. Certainly, I would hope. Right, if you have enjoyed this, do us a favor, hit like, hit subscribe. Do consider signing up for membership or Patreon, or just give us a lovely 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. If people want to check out, I know you do post-match shows. If people want to check out the review of this game from the Everton point of view, where can they find you?
It'll be available on Thursday on our YouTube channel. If anyone wants to subscribe, please do. We're about 1,400 away from 100,000, and that's my life done. I've completed life once I get to 100,000 on YouTube. So this is like the final boss now. So if the Forest fans want to help me beat the final boss on YouTube, please do help.
If another 90,000 people want to subscribe to this channel, then I can join
Hey,
Ted in.
listen, it's the dream. We all started. We have been doing this for like 11 years. It's not been all sunshine and rainbows. My God, it's been a horrendous journey at times. So listen, if you all want to jump on, but we look how nice I've been about Forest today. Come and subscribe to us. I've been really, really nice, and maybe we can get some Everton fans to come over and follow your channel as well. So why not? Why not? We're all being nice to each other. We're all trying to live the dream now, aren't we? So we're all trying to get we're all trying to get the teams that when we started following them, the teams they were then. We're all trying to get that team back. So let's just do it together. Let's just do it together.
Exactly. We're 1 year in, so if we keep at this rate, then hopefully we'll get there. So we're doing all right. Right. Thanks for everyone's company. No post-match show tomorrow. The only game of the season. It's a bit of a stretch schedule next week as well because I'm not around, but we will have stuff. Wi-Fi permitting on Monday, and then we've got some pre-recorded stuff through the week before we turn our attention to Spurs away when I'm back around next weekend. So yeah, thanks for everyone's company today. Have a good weekend. Enjoy the game, and if we don't see you on Monday, we shall see you soon.